Hello everyone, this is Timothy Mark with Alexandria.
How's everybody doing today?
And we are World Paranormal Research Society. The website is worldparanormalresearchsociety.org. The Gmail, if you want to send us any questions, comments, complaints, likes, whatever, it's worldparanormalresearchsociety@gmail.com. The YouTube channel is World Paranormal Research Society. Like and subscribe to our channel. And YouTube is just one platform that this podcast is at. It's actually on iTunes, YouTube, some of them's on Tumblr, and we're on Spreaker.com. So it's the Timothy and Alexandria Show podcast. And today we're going to have a very special guest, Rebecca. Sorry.
Dr. Rebecca Foster. Yay!
Okay. I almost butchered that one.
Well, you know what? It's a wee bit chilly where we are. We had a very chilly day yesterday, a chilly evening overnight. So just trying to get the blood working. Very super excited, very stoked to have Dr. Rebecca Foster joining us. And she's also a PhD. She's an author, a spiritual medium, and clairvoyant. And for you people that are out there, like I said, we're very excited to bring somebody of her caliber to this program. And, like-minded people like Timothy and I like to have people on the same playing field as we are. We can converse on a level that is understood by the three parties. So that's very, very, very important, and very excited. And I also have 2 or 3 people that have posed questions that they would like to have Dr. Rebecca Foster answer if possible, so we will get to those as well.
And I actually have a question for her as well, but before we get into all that, I started a new YouTube channel called Middle Age Fitness. I did it because I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, and when I was in the military, I was in the best shape of my life. That's what I've been saying. But however, when I look back on it, 2009, I was probably had the most muscle mass I've ever had in my life. And then 2012, I was probably the most cut I ever was in my life. So, but since then I went downhill, and so I'm trying to get back into shape, and I'm documenting it from day one. Documenting the process. I know everything to do because I've been in the military. I know all the workouts. I've studied all the nutrition and stuff of that nature, and I know the exercises and supplementations. So I'm going to do this naturally, and if I can do it with the problems that I have, being that I have gallbladder issues, I have a gallbladder that needs to be taken out, I have a left leg injury, and I'm currently a smoker that's trying to quit smoking. So yeah. So,
and I really have to...
Middle Age Fitness.
Okay, Middle Age Fitness.
And middle age is one word on that YouTube channel. So. And
I wanted to kind of jump in there and say that I'm very, very proud of Timothy for putting himself out there and having this challenge. I myself, I have a very, very slow metabolism. My metabolism sort of did a 360 after I had 2 kids, and I'm telling you, I could survive on a cracker a day and I would still not lose weight. So I really have to get back to doing walking. I have specific areas on my body that I really need to draw attention to. And I mean, let's face it, folks, as we age, I mean, we can't spring back to shape quite as easy as when we were children and youth. So I just wanted to say that, very, very important. And I'm just noting that there's some kind of a mist over our range hood here, and I noticed that Timothy was kind of looking over to that, but it seems like there's some kind of a mist or something, and just sort of different. That's all I can say in regards to the range. But as we know, we do have other entities that are in our command post here.
What I'm more looking at is, if you look at the blind, the handle on the blind was actually moving back and forth. The actual handled it to
well, maybe whoever is in our command post is also super excited that Dr. Rebecca Foster will be joining us as well. So maybe they have things that they want to get off their chest, and maybe they want to see if she can pick up on some of the entities that we have residing with us in our command post as well. Who knows, right?
But going back to the YouTube channel that I just started, middle age being one word, middle age, and then fitness. I started that and to dispel myths, because I've learned a lot of stuff from Rich and other people I knew through my life. And whereas people focus on protein and you need all this protein to build muscle and stuff like that, but also if you really research it, carbs is a major thing that you also need. So
within portions, limits as well. I mean, as with everything, I mean, you need a certain kind of amount of carbs in your system, which is true, but sometimes I like to overindulge in carbs and stuff like that, and that's not the greatest thing for somebody that has a snail's pace metabolism like I do.
Well, good carbs. You need good carbs.
Right.
Right now I'm cooking pasta. So, or as Alexandria would say, pasta.
I say pasta because I'm from Canada, but we call it pasta. He says pasta. Pasta, whatever. It still comes out the same thing in the wash.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a different way of pronunciations in betweens. Timothy says I have an accent. I don't think I have an accent, but he certainly does have a very strong accent to people out there that are not familiar with people from the South, the deep South.
Yeah, I know whenever I was up north and I'd try to order something, people couldn't understand what the hell I was saying. But yeah, I got that southern accent, but people would be like, huh? They wouldn't understand what I was saying. So yeah.
I understand what he says. I mean, I guess I've just gotten used to the drawl and all that kind of stuff. So I can kind of get to terms with what he's saying. So very, very excited again to have Dr. Rebecca Foster joining us momentarily, I would say. And like I said, kudos to Timothy for putting himself out there to start that 90-day challenge. And I think it's admirable, and I think we should all take care of our bodies, treat our bodies as a temple, and be very mindful of what you put into that temple. And I know chocolate and my downfall is salty foods. It's so much easier just to cram stuff in your face without having to count calories, count carbs, and just, they say you only live once. But, I mean, it's okay to indulge every once in a while, but really be mindful of what you're putting into your temple and respect that.
Yeah, what time do you have over there?
I've got one. Anytime you're ready to roll.
Yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and get Dr. Rebecca Foster on the phone. Let's see what we can do here.
Very, very excited to have a guest of this particular caliber on today's show. Just thrilled, tickled pink.
Hello, this is Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca. It's Alexandria and Timothy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We are just more than good. I'm so thrilled to have you joining us today. And I was saying when we did the intro on the podcast, absolutely tickled pink to have a guest of your caliber joining us. And again, I have to really thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Dr. Rebecca Foster joining us today. And you are a PhD. May I ask what a PhD of what, if you don't mind me asking?
Yes. It's a PhD in health services. And basically, my focus is helping those with addiction and spiritual connections to healing and to workplace where health is concerned. So.
Wow. I commend you because that you're really helping people, and that's very admirable. And like I said, I have to really thank you for everything that you do for fellow human beings. And I think that's you're really doing God's work. And again, I want to sort of tell our listeners as well, you are an author, and the book that I sort of did some research prior to this podcast is The Beaches, A Journey of Answers.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that book, if you don't mind?
Sure. Well, it was funny because I'm not a writer. Well, I do now.
Right.
but at the time of putting that book together, I kept hearing, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And I kept looking up saying, I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer. So one day, I heard, you need to write a book. And I said, okay, fine. You give me the first sentence, and I will sit down and I will write the book. And I heard the first sentence, and I was like, gosh, okay. So then I sat down and I started writing. And it's funny because people will say, oh, I read your book. There's this part in there about this. I'm like, really? I don't even remember writing it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just a very quick book. It's very fast. I made it. I did not want to sound scholarly, and I did not want to sound complicated. I want people to be able to pick it up in a fuzz and just read it and comprehend it and understand it on a normal talking level. And that's pretty much how I wrote it, was just very like a friend talking to a friend conversation.
This is a quote that really kind of touched me from the book, and it says in quotations, "The only reason you may not achieve something in life is because you choose not to achieve it." End of quotations.
Absolutely.
That just really, really touched me, and I thought, you know what, this is an awesome book to kind of inspire individuals to begin their own self-discovery journey. Amazing.
Hey, Rebecca.
Yes, hi.
This is Timothy. I have a question for you. At what age would you say that you felt like you discovered your gifts?
I was at about 13 when I started putting everything together and realized, at that age, you are already in a hormonal crazy imbalance. And there was a lot happening in my life, and I start looking back now in hindsight, and I think, because now I see, I understand why I could see these things, and I could understand why this was happening to me. But I did not start using it until I was about 13 years old, reading for people or, showing people the other side of what I could see.
You say, too, that you're a spiritual medium clairvoyant. So all in one category. Could you there's some listeners out there that may not be familiar with exactly what the term clairvoyant opposed to a medium is.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me clarify, too, that I hate the word psychic. Because, you got Sister Cleo on 900 Numbers and all that just give you a bad rap when it comes to being called a psychic. So, I don't know, ever since the 90s, I don't use that term for myself. But clairvoyant is basically just being able to see things clearly, to being able to see things that are not there within a clear dimension spectrum. Right. And the same thing with clairsentient and clairaudience. I can hear things and smell things that aren't there either. And so that's where that part comes through. And as far as the mediumship, I do not and will not allow energies to use my body for communication, but I will allow them to communicate through me using, me in control of that voice. So that's the difference is, so to separate the two for listeners. So the clairvoyant part, I can see past lives, current lives, and future things the way that they could be, unless a person changes things, or the way they could be if they do something to have that happen.
Right.
And so it's not my fault if 5 years ago I told you that you should, you're going to be making movies in Hollywood, and you didn't do that. So my next question is, well, what did you do to screw that up? What did you do to make that not happen? And that, then they can name a whole bunch of things. But if I'm seeing something, I don't make it up to make somebody feel good. And I don't make it up to make somebody spaz out or be afraid, or, it all comes down to this is what I'm seeing. Right. And this is how it can be, either way. The medium part is that I can talk to those passed over, human, animals, demons, angels. I see God only from the neck down, and I see Christ. And he's more just like my best friend. And so he's more on a human level. But so that's where the mediumship part comes in, to being able to communicate with those who have passed over across dimensions.
Right. Well, like I consider myself an empath. I was born with this ability, and like you, I was sort of torn at a small age. I was able to see things, communicate with things, but I didn't really know what was happening to me until, one day, it's almost like the apple falling off the tree and hitting you on the head and say, just like you had said, aha, now I understand why this was happening to me, because it was sort of my family was not very open to what was happening to me, so it was shunned, and they didn't want to discuss it, and they thought I was just weird, and they wanted to institutionalize me and all that kind of stuff. So I wasn't really open, but I completely agree with you in the aspect of using the word psychic. I really hate that. The first thing that comes to my mind is dial-up psychic, and my blood just starts to boil right away, and I just get very negative connotations in regards to people really their money being taken from them. So that terminology, and they really give individuals like you and I a bad rap, because we're true workers of spirit. And I appreciate you telling the listeners out there the differences between those terms. That's very, very important, because it's very confusing.
Hey, Rebecca, can I ask you another question here about Alexandria was telling me that you done work with Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes.
Can you give us a case that you handled that?
Sure.
Okay.
So are we talking just Unsolved Mysteries, or are we talking the TV show Unsolved Mysteries?
The
TV
show, yes.
Okay, so where the TV show is concerned, my mother, I'm originally from it. Everybody in my family is originally from south side of Chicago, about 20 minutes outside of Chicago.
Okay.
And my mom's hairdresser was telling her one day about some things, and my mom said, "Oh yeah, well this is what my daughter does," and blah blah blah. And the lady said, "Oh my gosh, I have to sit down and talk to her." So when I read for people, it's funny. Somebody will schedule a reading. I put on my calendar reading at 6. So when somebody calls, I don't even know what their name is.
Right.
They just call. And so this lady calls. I don't allow questions, nothing of the sort. And I started reading for her, and what it came down to is I don't remember if it was her brother-in-law or her brother. It was brother of some kind. And he had been missing. Well, I told her to go. Now, the police, everybody knew I was meeting with her. And they had her case on Unsolved Mysteries, trying to find out what was happening with this person who gone missing. So she takes this reading to the police, and what I was told was they needed to go onto his property, and in the back was a shed. It will have a deadbolt lock on it. They need to cut through that, and he will be underneath, by the lawnmower, underneath a bunch of old rugs and plastic.
Wow.
And so they went on there. They went and got a warrant. It was the girlfriend's property. At this point, she was still there. And they went on the property and went back, cut the deadbolt, and he was there. So they were able to arrest her for that. And so that was like a follow-up on their Unsolved Mystery. And that was like, that case was, I'm trying to think, probably in like 99 or 2000, because I was watching it on TV reruns about 2001.
Right.
So that was one of those. But I've worked with the police before. And helped solve mysteries of all kinds, which is cool. And I don't do all of them, but
is that when Robert Stack was hosting the show, or David Fareed?
Yes.
Oh, Robert Stack.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was one of my favorite shows right there.
I was a fan of that show too, and I commend you. That's amazing that you were able to do that and use your gift to really sort of unravel a case. I think that's absolutely amazing.
It doesn't work all the time. Sometimes I misinterpret things, and it helps when I talk to the person who's closest to that one who's deceased, because when I'm reading someone, I can pick up the energies that are around them. So if it's the mother, a brother, sister, that kind of thing, it's best to talk to someone who is closest to those who are missing. And I also talked to the police extensively about the whole Drew Peterson with his missing wives and all that.
Wow.
And we worked on that for a long time. And actually that's mentioned in the book, I think. Maybe not. Maybe that was kept under wraps. At the time I was working with them on several things.
That's high profile there.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was pretty awesome. I don't think we mentioned that in the book. We were working on several other things at the time. They had contacted me about that.
Right.
I'd like to throw a name out there for you and see if during this podcast if anything comes to you about it. And it's the name's James Edward Browning. And if you pick up on anything on that, just please let me know.
James Edward Browning?
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to sort of tell the listeners out there too, because I've had a lot of people try and ask me questions. They're super hyped to be listening to this. And I looked at your website, God's Tool, and I was very pleased on the title, which you go into. It's a place to receive spiritual guidance from God and spirit guides. And I really am impressed that you use the word God in everything that you do. That very, very impresses me. And a lot of mediums, or a lot of people that are in the spiritual world, not all of them make reference to God or saying you're getting messages from God. And I really think that's important, that you've set yourself apart.
And what I'd like to say too is I'm very much into the Bible, and I'm a Judeo-Christian, and so I can respect that about you. So you'd definitely be one of my favorite guests so far because of the fact that you are talking about God. So I really respect that.
No, I let people know. I let people know all the time that I can't do it without him, and he's the one who gave me the gift. And it took me, I'm going to tell you the truth, it took me a little while to figure that out. And it took him basically, we have a jealous God, and he basically said, okay, so you're not going to tell people about me. You're just going to claim this for yourself. Okay, fine, here you go. And he pretty much opened up the doors of hell on me, to the point where in about 2002, 2003, I quit reading for about half a year.
Right.
I had to regather myself, and I had a woman who did Bible readings. I couldn't even tell you how I found her. Little old lady, I think she's passed over, and she read for me and said, "What are you doing? This is from him. You gotta give him the glory." And I was like, "Holy cow, that's the thing. That's what I'm missing." So I went through and I got on my knees and I apologized, and I just said, I've been so greedy and so stupid and not recognizing that this is from you. So that from that point on, it was almost as if he went, okay, fine, that's all I wanted to hear. And the readings they became crazy, intense, awesome. And so I make sure people know that this is coming from him. And the other thing I want to point out, too, for all your listeners, because this is such a diverse listening group of people where paranormal is concerned, is never, not once, not once, in the 32 years that I have been doing this, has God ever said to me, "Rebecca, I'm not going to give you any information on this person because they're Catholic, they're Protestant, they're liberal, conservative, black, white, gay, straight, trans." Never once. Not once. I want to clarify to people who stick so highly to certain things that he does not discriminate. He loves everybody as his child. Just as a parent whose child commits a murder still loves that child.
Right.
It doesn't matter as a child what you do. Your parents are, most of the time, let me clarify, most of the time, they're going to love you. I'm sure there's exceptions out there, but never once has he ever said, "Rebecca, you know what, you're going to hell because you read and you are a medium or a spiritualist." Never once, not once. And so it's something that you deal with, and it's funny, but everything comes from him. It's all through white light, and I know the devil's out there. I've seen him. I know he's constantly trying to throw me off base, and I usually just kick him to the curb, tell him to kiss the feet of Jesus, and then we move on.
You know what? I really, I'm glad you clarified that. And then so many of us, because I know even when I'm in the world, there are a lot of people, when you tell people what you do, they really think negative connotation.
You spawn Satan.
That's right. Or they're judging the book without knowing what's inside of me, and right away, you're like a spawn of Satan or whatever, and not realizing that in the Bible itself there are prophecy, and there are things inside the Bible that the spiritual works are much a part of God's working. And thank you so much for clarifying that for the listeners, because a lot of people may be shy about going to see a medium or a clairvoyant because they figure, well, my religious beliefs wouldn't allow me to do that. And that is so very wrong. And God loves each and every one of us. And when I look at an individual, I look at the individual as a fellow human being. I don't see color, race, creed, religion. I just see a fellow human being in need. And what Timothy and I do with our investigations is we go with the aspect of helping the individual in, they're going through a time of struggle in regard, it could be a ghost, it could be demonic infestation, but we're there to kind of lend support, guidance, and try and walk them through a very sort of, because let's face it, with TV, movies, people have this misconception of what the world of spirit truly is all about.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And, we're trying to, with our podcast too, we're trying to navigate through all the BS, for a lack of better words, so people have a better understanding of, who we are, individuals like yourself and me.
Right. Absolutely. There is definitely misconception.
And
absolutely.
I noticed too as well, you're on YouTube Live with gallery readings. Can you tell the listeners a bit about those YouTube live gallery readings?
Sure. No, I feel like a lot of, God has given me an ability to support myself if I really wanted to. If I wanted to go out and make a lot of money doing this, I probably could. However, I leave myself open and as least cost as I can when it comes to elective readings, because I want to be able to provide for a large gamut of people, not based on what their income is. And so when I have these elective readings, that's great. It's always good, because if not, my husband would kill me for the hours of time that I do this, and he's saying, you're not getting anything back. So right. I leave that there. So in order to pay it back, it also says in the Bible, that use your talents and share them with everybody graciously and without grumbling. And so when I read that, I thought, and this was a long time ago, I thought I have to do more with my gift and make sure that I am, I'm investing my talents properly. And so the galleries are just a part of it. There are so many times I just do a free reading for someone because I know they need it right now to get through something. But the galleries allow a fun time for people to just get into the chat room. On YouTube, I do a gallery live stream, so when people enter the chat room, they just get in and say, hey, I'm new, or whatever, and I can pick up a person's energy just through them writing hey. And so I can pick up through emails, I can pick up through any kind of writing, anything. So I can see it. I can't explain how it's provided. It's just given to me to be able to help certain people. Some people come through, I see nothing for them, and that's not my fault. It's just not their time to receive a message. Everybody's hopeful, of course, but it's you just come into the chat room and I go through as many as I can in that time. It can go for an hour. Sometimes it can go for 2 hours. It just depends on how many people are there and how exhausted I am. So.
Yeah, I think you raised a good point, too, because a lot of people, when they go in for various readings, when they go to psychic fairs and all these different venues, they come back sometimes disappointed because they didn't receive a message, not understanding, like you just explained to the listeners, it may not be their time to receive a message.
Right. And that is true. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I will tell people, too, if you want a reading, and I've already read for you a month ago, call me and ask. And if it's not time, I'll tell you. Don't waste your money right now. Don't waste your time. Come back another time, because there's just not enough to tell you. And so, but you're right. And it's not like I can snap my fingers and wave a magic wand and say, whoop, here's your information, because it doesn't work that way. And I can't magically come up with things. And I have that on my website.
You have a disclaimer, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I and I'm glad that you do that, because people then don't have this misconception that, every time they're going to maybe log into your gallery readings that they're going to get exactly what they're looking for, because spirit doesn't work in that way.
No, exactly. And, and people also have to understand, and when I get questioned like that, oh, you're a medium, so what do you have to tell me? Nothing right now. And don't test God either, because when you test God, what does he do? Nothing.
That's right.
And that's where my information is coming from. And if you're basically saying, okay, fine, what do you have for me? I don't, because it comes from God and you're testing him right now. So, if something comes through, I'll give it to you, just because maybe you're a pompous jerk and I want to scare the bejesus out of you. So here you go. This is freaking you out now, because now I know something that maybe you didn't want your fellow friends to know about. And, if it comes through, I'll tell them. But I am very sensitive most of the time when it comes to galleries. I will not, if something sensitive for a person comes through, I will message them privately, or I will share it with the group instead of with that specific individual. So they'll get the message without being called out. But when it's fun, when I get a cynic or a skeptic or somebody who thinks maybe I'm a joke or they're just trying to be cruel, when I do get something about them and I throw it out there, it's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun.
It's just, you know what, because I've had a few people that try to debunk, do the same thing, be negative, and just they have no belief in the possibilities. And, we all get that as well. And
let me ask one question, because there's a lot of things going on in our personal life, me and Alexandria. Mm-hmm. And again, if you pick up on anything of that, if you'd let us know, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay.
And another question, too. Absolutely. I know you have a lot of events that are coming forward in regards to you have something that's going on in Haymarket, Virginia, and then you have a battlefield ghost walk. How do you like those ghost walks? Could tell the audience what do you experience when you do maybe a battlefield ghost walk, so they all know what.
Well, the ghost walk, it's so much fun because those battlefields, they have so many soldiers who are still sitting there in the trees, who are still, ready for war and battle. They're hanging out. And they don't even come out to talk. Like, they're afraid to come out and be seen. And so it's just so amazing, going on those ghost walks and, picking up the energies, the battlefields, the lives lost, the people still laying in it's so crazy, amazing fun. And just talking to them, finding out who they are and, where they're from. Or I was there last October, and I had one gentleman actually giving us like a tour around the battlefield. It was a lot of fun.
Wow.
And we saw a couple of things, and a couple of things were caught on camera. And my friend who is there, who does my services and events and stuff, she sent me like 14 of the videos over the last 2 days so that we could kind of compile what we had picked up on our trip she lives in Virginia, but while I was there in Virginia at jail and everything. So there's that in Virginia, and then we've got things that are going to be happening in Wisconsin and Iowa and Illinois, and they just aren't posted yet. So,
hey, Rebecca, before Alexandria asked you that last question, you started to say something. You said, "I see," and then she asked the question. What? And so,
oh my goodness sakes! You know what? I have no idea.
Because I was asking about us and our the things we have going on in our personal life. But if it comes back to you, just let me know. I noticed that you started to say, "I see," and then she asked you that question. And I said, "Golly."
Oh my gosh. It's funny. I don't even remember saying that. Yeah. So that's how it works sometimes. When I do my readings for people, especially, since I'm repeating what I am seeing and being shown, I don't remember it. It's not like it's my personal thought. Right. So people will say, "Oh, you read for me. Do you remember saying this?" Like, I have no idea. I really do not recall, because I'm not coming up with it myself. My own brain, it's just channeling through me, and I'm repeating it in like a strip of a movie or something. But yeah, so what were we talking? You had asked me also about somebody else at James, and then about what's going on in your lives. And, very interesting. Okay. And what's funny is, I don't want to change the subject, but when you had asked about the James, for some reason, I felt like I was sitting in a diner, and I don't know why, but I felt like I was just sitting hubbed up to a counter, and I could smell like the breakfast, eggs and toast, and, it just felt like I could smell metal, and it just felt like, I feel like I'm sitting in a diner or something.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. But don't say anything. Don't say, if anything else comes through, it'll kind of make more sense. But
okay.
And then where you guys are concerned, the one thing that comes through that I pick up for you is almost as if you are on one side standing together and by a chessboard, and you're about ready. You're wondering who's going to do checkmate first. Are we going to be able to get around this and then do a checkmate? And it's interesting because it's all falling into place, almost as if you are playing the computer, and that would tell you that it's your opponent or the forces working or playing against you are very logical and exact in how the next move they make, the next steps. And so it may feel almost as if you're working against something and feeling like every step you take or every move you make is feeling like a bit of a defeat. Like, is this the right one? Is this going to overjudge? And then are they going to like counter it really? It's interesting because the way you guys are talking and she's going, and Alexandra, you're going, no, put this one here. I move it. And you're like, okay, whisper quieter because it might hear us. It's really funny. It's interesting that you are almost giving this other opponent, a character or an energy as if it's knowledgeable or if it could actually contemplate and think, which is interesting because I don't see anybody on the other side of the board. Nobody is on the other side of the board. So then what this tells me also is that it feels as if you will be dealing with something with like legal things, legalities.
Yes.
And the whole idea of how, all the fine print and all of the red tape and all of the things, and is it going to know if we do this, how do we cover this, and is it going to jump this one if we do this? Okay, so there's this whole setting up, and how is this going to turn out if we move this way? Are they really going to jump us double? So that's kind of what they're showing me in a movie form of you playing chess, wondering how good your opponent is, and you can't see your opponent.
Yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, you're pretty spot on with what's going on with us. Yes.
I really, really appreciate that. It was very incisive and kind of innovative, and it's sort of where we sort of currently are, sort of from a different perspective. And like I said, you're really, like Timothy said, you are spot on describing it, on sort of what's going on, and I really, really appreciate it. And I kind of wanted to jump in quickly because in the work that we do, investigations, like we bring things back with us, or we have a lot of things that are attached to us. Do you find that you have to, prior to going to these battlefield ghost walks, that you have sort of a preparation that you do so you don't have these negative attachments?
No, the battlefields, no. There are certain places that I go, like the battlefield, where that's where they are. You're not taking them off their post. They aren't going anywhere. They're going to stay there until the commander tells them it's over. And I try to tell them, the war's over a long time, guys. You can go, and try to bring the light down for them. But it's like there's a disbelief. They just don't believe it. Because there's something going on in that plane still to this day, at the same time that we're living, that they still believe this is going on. It's just those are the only ones that are visible to me. But however, there are homes and buildings that I will go into that I'll think, there is some nasty stuff here. and I don't want it to attach to me, and I will go in and I will say my prayers. I will cover myself in green, pink, and white light, and I will slam a gold cross against my spine, and I will have my angels with me. Pretty much just put on all of my faith and my spiritual leather before I go into someplace. And I will also back out of a building as well. I never leave walking face forward because I don't want anything on my back. I want to see what I am leaving behind. Even at that, I was, for instance, I went to lunch with my family today, and all of a sudden I'm like, bam, anxiety. And I sat up, and my husband goes, what? And I'm like, there's something here. And my son goes, are you talking like there's a ghost here, Mom? And I'm like, no, it's like smells. It's good smells. We're just smelling lots of things. So I said the Our Father prayer, and I wiped whatever it was off my back, and I turned around, and I'm like, who is sitting behind me that has this nasty, garbagey energy on them? Because I don't want it. And all of a sudden, I said my prayers, I cleared my back, I got it off of me, and then the vibration ended, and I said, did you feel that? My husband's like, what? And I said, it felt like something just turned off. Did you feel the vibration end? And he goes, I felt that. And I said, it's gone. It's like, there's nothing. He's like, I felt it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. So at that point, I took a snapshot. I'm like, we're having delicious food.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. And guys, I don't know how much you guys want me to tell you, but speaking about that, because I know whatever you do to, going in and doing ghost hunts, any kind of trying to expel things, oh my gosh, I've got so many stories. I just don't know how much you guys want to hear.
No,
but,
go ahead. We want to hear them for sure.
We want the audience to hear everything.
Okay. I'll give you two examples. One, when I was in Virginia, we went to a winery, and it was an old estate that was used as a surgical hospital during the Civil War. Right. So, of course, my girlfriend says, we got to go, it's haunted. So we go in, owners find out why I'm there, and they said, well, if you had a chance, you have to go into the servants' quarters. And I said, okay, fine. So we go in the servants' quarters. Now, this is one of the videos I'm going to upload. And we go into the service quarters, and I said, okay, there's a dude laying there, there's a guy in the corner, and I open this side door, I'm like, oh, and there's a family in this room. And, okay, so this whole aspect of clearing the energy, trying to let these people leave, and now I had, she had invited a couple of friends, so there was 8 people that are here witnessing all of this. They're terrified.
Wow.
And you can see I moved all of these boxes out of the way where this gentleman was laying, and his form was still in blood across the floor underneath all these boxes.
Wow.
And so that is caught on video. So I got down on the floor, and I was finding his energy, and I'm like, you have to leave, you have to go. And at that moment, I'm moving my hands around his energy. You get 2 orbs. They go boom, boom, right from underneath my hand. And then he's gone. Now, that was caught on camera. So then I said, I have to go in the room and make this family leave. And it was a black family. It was a woman, and several children, and then who I believe was her brother or some kind of uncle to the family. And so we all say prayers. We all called them out of the room. We asked them to leave, send them to the light. It's okay. This is over, blah, blah, blah. And I closed the door. And we're all standing there talking, and I said, I think everybody's gone. And then the door handle goes, ching, 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 and I'm like, and the one woman goes, was that the doorknob? And I said, it was. Somebody must be stuck inside. And I opened the door, and this little girl comes running out. I'm like, oh, it's the little girl. And she came running out of the room and just kind of disappeared among all of us. It was the coolest thing ever.
That sounds amazing.
So, it was. So then we go upstairs into the house portion. I do a little walkthrough, and then there is this big table blocking the stairways. It says employees only. I'm like, I'm going upstairs. So I go upstairs. I get to the top. It's pitch black. And I'm hit with, get out. Do not come any further. And so I walk into a bedroom. I am being pushed back. I thought, I know you don't want me here. I'm checking it out anyway. And I go in the other room, and I am, again, pushed back. Do not. Get out. Get out. Get out. So I am vibing out everything back down the stairs, and I said, whatever is up there is nasty. And I said, and I can guarantee any of the employees here will not go upstairs because of it. It's scary. So we're sitting there, and this woman comes up to me who's a spirit, and she goes, somebody lost their leg right here. If you pull back the rug, you'll see all of their blood trickle against underneath your chair. So I get down, I pull the rug back, and there is this huge puddle of blood. It's pooled against the back wall, and I've moved everything out of the way, and it was the coolest thing. But back to the original story. As we were leaving there, whatever was upstairs tried to cop a ride with me.
Whoa.
And yes, so I had to go outside. I had to, say my prayers. I had to get rid of it. And it took a little while, but it finally let go. And everybody could see and feel the energy change. But they do. The demonic things, it's not really the human things that do it. It's the demonic things that I have problems with.
Right. That's what we have problems with too. I hear you on that note, and it's very, it can be very detrimental if you don't know how to protect yourself or how to, these hitchhikers on your spiritual armor to get rid of them prior to going home. It can ruin your life literally, and it can be very detrimental to your well-being and even your family's well-being. So I hear you on that note as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You're correct. Absolutely.
I'm going to sort of jump in here because I have a friend, a lady of mine. Her name is Angela Sims, and she is a huge fan, and she's actually not in America at the moment. She lives in Canada, but she had a question. She thought during this podcast if you had any feelings about her grandmother had passed away, and she was very close with her grandmother, and she just had a dream of her last week. She was holding her grandmother's legs and holding her in her arms, because I guess her grandmother couldn't walk properly near the end. So she had a question if you could pick up whether her grandmother was actually able to use her limbs in the next dimension. Angela Sims was very, very close to her grandmother, and I met with her several times, and she has been so grief-stricken about her grandmother. She's actually planned a trip in June with her family to go pay her final respects. So she thought if you, during the podcast, had picked up any vibrations or energy about her grandmother, she would be appreciative of it.
Okay, well, I can tell her this. First of all, on a non-reading level, I can tell you that when a person passes out of the physical, there are no limitations, and those abilities are there. The only limitation is created by the physical form and what we think we can and can't do, what we believe. And sometimes, again, a person just may be physically unable to do something. So the limitations of the earthly aspect are completely removed. People go to heaven, and I say heaven it's just a very quick way of saying heaven, because there are so many heavens. It's exactly what's in the Bible. There are so many houses in heaven, and everybody has one. Some people might be cooking, some are baking, some are golfing, some are driving trucks. I saw, one gentleman who was paralyzed in life. He drives a truck in heaven. That was what he likes to do in heaven. He drives.
Wow.
Boating. Some people, heaven is just another plane on a different level of living. And it does not end with the physical. This is more like university. While we are here, we are learning on how to become better people, and we are learning about how to become more compassionate, more caring, and we screw up because the earthly stuff is so much more dealing with pleasure principles than it is spiritual mind and all of the good ways of being. We just get taken in by the cookies, the greed, or the money, or whatever else. So people have to understand that. I can guarantee her grandmother is not disabled in any way, and she's probably, from what I'm looking at, I'd have to look at her and think, gosh, she looks like she's probably in her early 30s, maybe like 32, 31 years old. She's got like a long skirt on, about T length, and she's wearing some flat shoes. Looks like that must be like a waist apron that she is wearing, some kind of apron. Her hair looks like it would be longer, but it's pulled back or curled up away from her face. And she's a firecracker, I think is the way to put it, where she's very proper when she's supposed to be, and then she's just very spitfire when people that know her are around or she's alone. And so there's this well-rounded individual, I guess is the way to put it, to where she knows how to behave when she has to behave, put it that way.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Rebecca. Since you described that woman's grandma so good, I would going back to James E. Browning.
Yeah.
If you see him at all, man.
Yeah. Well, what he looks like, if I'm sitting next to him, let's say at that Smell Good diner, if I'm sitting next to him, I'm 5'6" in height, and his shoulders. I mean, he's a little higher and taller. I'm trying to put them both together at the same time. He's taller than me. I would look at him standing up, and I think, gosh, he's got to be about 5'9", maybe 5'10", and his hair looks like it would have been brown, probably a little wave to it. It looks like he may have a hat on, but I think the hat is off. But the way his hair is, he may have been a hat wearer. And then his hands are calloused, so it would have been worker hands. He would have been a hard worker. He maybe work on engines or motors or building or doing things with his hands. He would have been he would have labored with his hands doing certain things, either for a hobby or for work. But he wants me to mention his hands, and they're thick fingers, like they're strong hands. If I'm listening to him, he says he likes a cold, what does he say? He likes a cold, foggy morning, cold, misty morning. He's trying to show it to me, and he's talking at the same time. So it's like waking up to
a morning
the
dew.
mist off of a lake. Yeah, like if you get up at a cabin and you walk outside and the lake has kind of misted up the shoreline, it's like he's just saying he likes a cold morning, a dew or a morning dew or a cold misty morning. It's like that's what he's trying to get across to me. There would have been sporting. He would have been a sporting individual as well. Also very comfortable as a loner. But at the same time, it feels like he's missing. As I'm sitting next to him, he's missing someone. It's like he's saying that he screwed up somehow. I screwed it up, and that he can get by. He's very strong to get by, but there's some kind of he's missing something as well. And he says he does a lot of traveling, and he does a lot of traveling now. And it's funny because I could put him like he would have been easy to be able to travel in life, or just wanting to see and go, because it's kind of what he wants me to acknowledge now as far as movement about. And also he looks like he's talking about grandkids, talking about babies for some reason.
Yeah.
And looks like a little girl that would be younger than a little boy, and that family is the only thing that keeps him spotlighted for a long time. It would be checking in on family. That's the only thing that keeps him focused for a longer period of time, rather than just out traveling and doing his thing.
And is he okay? There's a question. Is he okay?
Yes, no, he's okay. And the thing is he still, see, when we pass, sometimes while we are contemplating what we're going to do, are we going to take who we are, and are we going to go on through the little tiny narrow gates and just stay? Mm-hmm. Are we going to go up there and stay with Christ in heaven? And that depends on your belief system, because we all have the same God. We just interpret the teachings differently. So there's our Bible. Then there's people, the Muslims, they have the Quran. There's Taoists and Buddhists, and there's all sorts of different religions. And it's funny because we all are intermingled and intertwined. It just depends on who deciphered it so long ago, and then who chose to follow what. And so when I talk to people, I always use spirit, because it's what you believe in, who you believe in. Oh, what the heck is that? That looks like a giant cat. I'm sorry. Well, my parents live off in the forest preserves, and okay, that is a big cat. I don't know what kind of cat that is.
Yeah.
That's a big cat. I almost swore, too. But so, yes. So we have that choice. Are we ready to go? Do we think we're ready to take that narrow path and go? Or do we know that there's still more that we need to learn, that we want to learn what it's like to lose our legs when we're 30 and we're athletes, or that we want to learn what it's like to be blind or deaf, to be poor, to grow up in a ghetto, to grow up in a mansion, to be a movie star? Do we want to learn what it's like to do all these different things to make us a better person? And so that feels like that's where he's at, is he's still up there going, I think I want to go back down. I want to learn more. I want to change things. I want to fix things. I want to make things different. I want to grow more. And so they stay up there long enough to enjoy, to wait for others that they want to share their life with again. And then that contract is rewritten and they come back down. And it feels like he still wants to learn. He still wants to improve who he is. And being here is fun. I mean, being down here is a lot of fun. Once we figure out I'm good, I don't need to go back down anymore, I've learned what it's like, we can choose either way. But a lot of times being down here is fun, and living that process.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so you
I'm probably coming back down. They're gonna make me come back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're sending you back, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Pretty sure.
I hope they send me back too. But
I had one more. We had so many questions for you, but I didn't want to take too much time. There was I'll call her Bree, and she apparently had some blood work where it came back that she had hepatitis.
Okay, don't tell me anymore.
Yeah.
Just hold on. Okay, so Bree,
Yeah.
If I do a health scan on Bree, what it feels like with her is that the only thing I can say is it almost feels like she has like a buildup of candida or of yeast within her blood, which will make her either have weight issues fluctuating, and it will make her very tired. It would also make her feel just, I want to say, exhausted. And looking at her blood, I mean, her blood looks okay, like balanced out.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that she may, if this was something really, really bad, they would show me a difference in scale of how many white blood cells to red blood cells. If it were cancerous or something that was detrimental, they would show me that in the way the blood measures out. What they're showing me is that she may even just have a slight infection that can be fixed and treated, but ultimately it would affect how she eats, digests, and if she's nauseous after she eats, because it seems to be affecting the stomach and intestinal area. Looking at it, it's like a yeast or candida throughout the digestive tract. Looking at, might even be affecting her liver, so her liver enzymes might be increased as well.
Right.
But she, overall, I think this is fixable through the change of diet. Exercise is great, but it looks like a change in diet, removing artificial sweeteners from her diet, removing anything like soy from her diet, removing soda, no pop, drinking coffee, tea, water with lemon. It'll help her a lot. Yeah.
Hey, Rebecca, I hate to sound so selfish here, but since we got you on the show, I have a severe health issue myself, and I'm a little concerned. I don't know if you can do a health scan on me or not, but
okay. You know what? What it looks like what's going on with you is it almost feels like autoimmune, and it feels as if it is. When I look at you, they show me a mirror too. So things that you have pushed, suppressed, and not dealt with over the years, looks like your body has just interpreted it as saying, okay, well, I'm the culprit, so I'm going to start attacking myself. And it feels as if this would be, almost like a chronic thing, like a fatigue or
you're right.
Yeah, and it feels like it could be something that can develop into something severe, into an autoimmune severe disorder. So because you're spiritual enough and believe enough in this, that if you can go through and kind of just focus on what you have been through, what you've gone through, who has hurt you, who you are angry with, who you may still be hung up on, just feeling like you never got clarity and clarification and resolution, kind of reach into the top of your head, pull out whatever that is, and reach down as far as you have to pull out that anger or that upset or that regret, that pain, and then put it in your hand, visualize it, watch it go up in fire and flames, and then blow the ashes off of your hand. This will help to relieve some of any kind of suppressed issue that you don't even realize is there. And another thing that I started doing a long time ago, letting people know, and I don't know the name of this, you have to forgive me, but people can look this up too, is you go through life, you put everybody on a horse post, this is how I do it at least, like a balloon bobbing, and then you can see their face, and you've tied all these balloons along the post, and it's family, friends, parents, whoever, teachers, whoever you felt like you had a run-in with in this lifetime. And you don't have to even have done anything wrong. You could have been the one that was abused, that kind of a thing. And you look at that balloon and you see that person and you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And what you are doing is you are visualizing every transaction that's happened between the two of you. After you have said that and you visualized, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. Untie the balloon, watch him float away. You go through everybody in the balloon line. The last one there is yourself. So then you see yourself standing there in front of you and you go, Tim, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, and thank you. And you go through that, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And what'll happen is by the time you get to you at the very end, you will be a blubbering, sobbing mess, because now all of a sudden you're seeing these things you never realized you held against yourself. You never realized what you did or how you held yourself back. And you might see yourself as a 5-year-old boy, a teenager, who you are now. Hug yourself and then let yourself go. And this will help. It will help release all of the sludge and the pent-up energies and everything, so that you can help to heal from the inside out. But it looks like something that your body's on attack on itself.
Wow, yes, that's pretty powerful. I would definitely appreciate that. You're right in a lot of ways there, for sure.
Yeah.
I really want to...
And you don't want it to go into your joints. You don't want it to go into your joints.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, well, it's what you said makes sense, and I'm definitely going to take your advice for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good release. Mm-hmm.
And Rebecca, if you don't mind, before we kind of wrap up the show, could you let everybody, all the listeners know out there how they can get in contact with you, by what medium, and how they can reach you?
Sure. Everybody can go to my website. Like you said, it's either godstool.com or rebeccafoster.co. They take you to the same place. And I have on there is all my links to the YouTube galleries. If you subscribe to that, you'll get updated when I'm doing new galleries. There's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I do a lot of updating on all of those. And you can, any form of those fashion, you can contact me. People can reach me through any of that. And if you have, my biggest thing is if you have a question, just say, hey, I have a question on a general aspect of like my health or a family. Don't give me the details. Okay. Just say, hey, you know what? I have a quick question. I'm concerned about this area of my life. And, cause I usually don't ask any kind of questions. I don't want to be given anything, because then I know that everything that comes through is clean information.
Well, we'll definitely link up your contact on our different platforms here. But
awesome.
Is there anybody else that had a question for her?
We had a lot of questions, but I don't want to barrage Rebecca with questions. I'd rather they contact her directly. And this has been such a momentous podcast for me. I've been sort of running off with the mouth. I must apologize, but I've been so super excited to speak with a like-minded individual. And it's almost like I'm doing an interview with a rock star or a movie star on the spiritual plane.
I'm really not that important.
Well,
but you know what? Your listeners can all get on the free galleries. I have 2 coming up. So April 12th at, I believe that is 10:30 Central, and then April 13th at 9 p.m. Central.
And that's the YouTube live galleries, right? Where they can get live gallery readings? Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And they can even watch without logging in. And so I don't even know who's there unless they say, hey, I'm here.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say that you have coming up, or anything else you want to promote?
No, you know what? I'm good. I'm all good. I'm glad that it's finally, I got the go ahead to kind of push this out there. I've always kept it very private. I've left it to only my clients, referring people on, and God basically said, it's time to get out there and promote this and make it happen and reach people. So I'm just going to do what he wants me to do. So.
Well, we'd like to thank you for being a guest on our podcast, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was super fun.
We've been thrilled to have you, and again, thank you so very much, and thank you most of all for doing God's work and getting the message out there.
Too.
Thank you.
You guys too. You too. Thank you so much.
Have a good rest of your day, and watch out for them cats.
I will. Have a good day, guys. God bless.
You too.
Right,
God bless. Okay. Bye.
Okay, folks. So that was Dr. Rebecca Foster. She definitely was pretty accurate on a lot of my stuff there. So if anybody would like to contact her, I definitely highly recommend it.
And I know Brenda had a question too, and we were able to answer Brenda's question as well. So
what was Brenda's question?
Brenda was just talking about her father and if he was okay. So
yeah, well, the funny thing is, my granddad was James Edward Browning, okay, and then I had 2 uncles that are now passed on. I feel like who she was describing would have been Cliff McLean, which would have actually been sitting in the diner, described his hair. He did wear the hats. And I feel like she described him perfectly to a T, and that's who presented himself.
In the diner?
In the diner, because that's how I would recognize him. If anybody knew Cliff McLean, he would always go to the diner for breakfast. That was his big thing. When Shoney's was open, he'd go there. I could see him regretting some of the things that he's done. He was a traveler. A little known fact about Clifford McLean is he used to work for the Teamsters in Chicago, and he was an arsonist. This is my uncle who passed away. He was caught and he did prison time for it. He only did 2 years, but after that Teamsters gig, he lived a pretty righteous life, I'd say.
And you know what? This is one of the podcasts that's going to be one of the top 5 podcasts that we've done so far, because Dr.
Top 5, I'd say it's the best one so far.
Best one in my eyes out of the and Dr. Rebecca Foster, please do yourself a favor. She has YouTube live gallery readings. Please check it out. She is on Twitter. She is on Facebook. Check out her website at God's Tool website. Do yourself a favor. Please connect with her and participate in the up-and-coming events that she does have.
And I feel like maybe sometime in the future we could have her back on as a guest again down the road, maybe 6 months down the road or so. And try to get it where we can have callers at that time. But yeah, we'll link her website and ways to get in touch with her on this podcast. Just check the description below. It'll be linked, and that's it for me.
What a blessing to have somebody that pays homage to God on the podcast. Thank you all.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
Bye. Thanks, Rebecca. Bye.